I want to welcome everyone to another edition of Guidance for the Soul. And as you can see, there's a difference in who I am in guidance mode, right? When I was in the mode of love for my family tree, we're going to talk about the nature of visions of evil, right? People are starting to get a little scared of that vision of, do I have to place evil on other people, or do I pick another person to place that vision on? I'm getting those visions based on someone else's vision. So it is not about, being bad if you feel like you need to create another soul to place something on. What you really don't want to do is place it on another person if you can help it, right? This is what people will say. They will say, the devil made them do it, right? It's a playback. Playback the vision. Does the devil make anybody do anything? No. That's the nature. Most people are into that fanatical vision of suicide, right? So there was that vision that was brought through at one point for me. Not in the vision of it for myself, but about having to hear about it so much. And it gets a little, old, to be honest. For those of you who saw the episode of me trying to unwind that vision, for those of you who are constantly bombarded by it in the mindset, you need to break free of that. And there's a way to do it. You tell whoever keeps planting those seeds, stop talking about it or go get some help. That's what you do. You don't sit there and say, let me just keep moaning and groaning about it. It's going to be disrespectful, right? There's a difference between the clinical versions of how long does it take someone to grieve. It's not about repressing it, but by golly, it can perpetuate that among others. Most in those clinical settings know that it is very common for those visions to keep playing out and almost like attracting that other energy. So quit messing with the vision of it, people. Don't play those scenes out in your mind. You don't want to attract that vision. Okay? We all have people in essence who it's the Theodore Roosevelt. Someone else is saying, oh God, that's who I am. I'm the one that keeps talking about it. Knock it off. Do you want to sit there and have a soul session? Then knock off the vision of, I've always got to create this vision of someone based on the way that they passed. Think about the beautiful parts of their vision. Okay? I'm going to get strong with people because you're going to have to break that cycle. It's like breaking the cycle of abuse. You break the cycle of suicide. You break a lot of those negative impacts. People aren't going to like it, are they? You break it. You have to literally break it and say, I don't have to go down that path. I can pull myself up and either ask for help or go about another way of doing the vision. So now I'm going to talk about Theodore Roosevelt. Another president that would have said, I would have been very strong in my mindset. I would have guided many souls to a higher vision of life, right? That's another aspect of another soul that is on the, it's not, okay, so let's talk about this. I'm not going to do Theodore Roosevelt as a president. Just because someone else says, why are we talking to Bush? Why aren't we talking to other souls who have a better vision, right? That would be a political realm. Okay. Condoleezza Rice, we were talking about Condoleezza Rice at one point. She has been deemed, beautiful in her vision. She was disgraced by what she saw. However, in our vision, many are not actually coming out and saying what they think about the current situation. We will rise above the vision of political realms. We will go to a higher vision of it at some point. Before I came on, I was getting a vision of pain in my shoulder, and this is about the nature of the pandemic and the vaccine. And that is, how many people do I know that are going to be sitting back watching that one come through strong? When I get the physical symptoms brought to me about someone who's planning to escape from the vision of health. Okay, so some people need the visions of my health is not that strong, so I'm only going to listen for a few minutes to see if she gives me the mission impossible. Tom Cruise, right? Those are those visions of other souls that will come through for me at some point. His vision was destroyed by his faith, in essence, in many ways, for a certain period of time. And then he was able to rise to a different understanding that I don't need to, cater to other people's visions in order to succumb to an easy death. So in his vision, his death will be easy. He's not planning on dying anytime soon, let's put it that way. Archangels were still in the mindset of those that are in that, the moment. So we would call this a moment of understanding. The garage band vision is what I often hear about. And these are all visions of love for those who were in that mindset of suicide. And we know famous souls who did do that vision of suicide, who were in the vision of I was strong and I let go too soon. That's what a lot of them would say, I let go too soon, unless they were in the vision of, my health is so severe or terminal or whatnot that I can't take it anymore. And we're going to say the pain will ease in the mind when you start to see the transition to a different sort of soul. I'm not here to do the vision of individual soul sessions at this point. Okay, we're going to start doing that in a different vision. What we're going to do here is try to guide those souls outside of that vision of desperation or of, giving people hope for a better future. How many people are still delayed from their tragedy, right? I had tragedy in my life and she's telling me to pick myself up. I will honestly tell you how to do that vision of planting the seeds of I'm no longer in that mindset of suicide. That's the nature of where they go. You have to find a different focus for your mind. So instead of planning these visions, you would say, I'm going to instruct people on how to focus and find a more beautiful vision for themselves. Okay, unless that soul level understanding wants to decide to come through to actually open up the narrative about what it is to be inspiring versus desiring. Does someone want to take out someone else in the vision of suicide? And we have to talk about that because those are the terrorists of the world, right? Suicide. Okay. We're going to talk about a strength that Brenda had, and this was the vision of hearing about yesterday's shooting again. And so people are going to get a taste of her experience of hearing the vision without the details. Okay, and in essence, her life was so busy, she didn't tune in only to hear the vision of I'm walking through Macy's. Shots fired were already heard days before. She put that out of her mindset, knowing it's a warning. I did not hear the date or the time or the place, but then I heard Macy's yesterday. And I discounted it because in my mind, I was still in the mindset of me getting messages for me. And it didn't make sense and I didn't stop and tune in. Had I reached the level of understanding where the soul has not been found, correct? It is one of those visions of police that she will have to unwind about whether or not she's going to work in the field of investigation or not. It was a struggle for her to understand that that's the soul's vision of what they're hearing. Most people start to have the empathy for her, right? Oh, wait, or will it be the judgment? She knows her loved ones would say, I'm sorry. Because it does take a toll when you're like thinking, I'm supposed to be everything to everybody. I'm still in that mode of trying to figure out what messages mean what sometimes. When I'm in the land of make-believe, right? People are thinking this is a make-believe kind of thing. It's not. I literally have so many different things pulling on my heart that, it's like, that I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, what's going on? Which messages are for who? And, I hear things at different times. I'm being bombarded by messages sometimes. Other times it's a beautiful discussion, with my own soul or with a family member. I was dealing with shit with my family. That's what disrupted the message. And I'm going to be honest about it. I'm getting tired of it. And so I'm going to talk about the nature of relationships in essence. And people are going to laugh. No, seriously. And I don't mean my immediate family. I'm talking about extended family. Okay? I reach out and then it comes back. Like I'm supposed to then start giving messages to everybody else. The messages are being well received by the majority of people. For the most part, when it comes to that kind of stuff, people don't want to know about the next shooting, right? It's going to tear people apart when they start to hear about, it's the extended family that's causing havoc. It's not their fault. It's me and how I choose to address the family. And this is for a general, reading. This is for other souls that I won't even know. But this is also about the nature of creating a space of being honest and saying, I can't believe I messed up on that one. I was getting more again. I've had that experience before where I was working with the soul on the spot as it was happening and trying to make sure I don't say the wrong thing to the wrong person. When you're in that vision of soul communication and you're trying to talk someone down from the ledge, right? Or stop them from making a decision that's going to hurt, other people. I'm not trained in hostage negotiation. That's why I'm not here to do that vision. Okay, but I can bring forth information to hopefully head off some of those souls that are in that vision of, to be helter-skelter. Some people would say, you're in the lower realms. No, I'm not. I'm working with higher visions. Okay. The lower visions are those visions that don't understand the strength of connection with your own higher self. And then the predictive qualities coming to you to say, can I actually invoke change in a way to help people? So would a psychic's abilities be part of the vision of soul embodiment. You have to be prepared for this stuff if that's what you want. It's not all bad. By far, it's not. It's beautiful. Okay? That's the beauty of it. It can be strong. It can be struggled. Sometimes it's hard to get your own stuff. So for me, I assumed it was like about, me going into Macy's at some point. It happens to be a place that I shop. And, and I was like, this doesn't make sense. I'm supposed to be kind of saving my pennies a little bit. We all are at this point, people. Because we need to kind of pull back on the vision of extreme makeovers. Okay. We hear all these things. This is the nature of soul embodiment. Don't assume that you're going to have a life-changing event like mine. But it's where you place your focus. So when I tell people don't go down the path of soul embodiment until you're healed a lot in your heart, you need to be strong. You don't want to be in the mindset of creating negativity if at all possible. The vibrations of religion are very strong. That's why they have that loving, caring soul there working with them to lift them up to that higher vibration so that they can, hopefully, raise themselves up. But the reality is that our own souls have their visions. And my vision is of strength, duty, to the honor of my heart. I don't do anything that doesn't honor my heart. So if someone was telling me to go do something that was against my own moral compass, right? Okay, the morality issue becomes a little less so when you go between realms, okay? You start to question whose rule is this and why am I living my life by it? We're seeking the freedom on a soul level, okay? And that's going to hit some people because they're going to be like, no, I'm okay with that vision. So most people in their faith, and this is why we want to just send out the love to all of those that are in that faith of I need my faith in order to keep me lifted up, the love, the prayers, the honoring of it, the sense of community. We get it. We love it. It's for her, she has to hear about it. Do you want to hear about the sinful things that you do according to someone else's vision? I can't do it in my heart because in essence, a lot of the religious realms, and when I say this, it's not that I don't honor it for those or I see the need for it. I can't imbibe upon it myself because just the fact that they don't allow for people to love whoever they want based on gender, right? Or preferences. I can't go down that route. And it's not about, anything personal with me. It's a higher vision I have for the love of all. And that's why I can hit that vision. Okay. I honor the vision of love is where the religious realms go. So they still have that love in their hearts for all. But in essence, if you are in the vision of other, then that's where a lot go. My faith is my faith. Theirs is theirs. We may not agree, but we don't, create with them? Or we send them love and affection? Or do we demonize the other faiths? That's the problem that I have with that. So that's why I kind of rise above that vision. I accept it as valid for everyone, here, because we're all creating that vision. But it's not that it can't help you. That's why I know what that vision is of belief. Believing in the power of prayer is strong. Okay? So that's the nature of where so many people go. That when they feel something, they're very much, I need to hear a prayer in order to be lifted up. So they might imbibe upon the vision of, a church or a sermon or something like that. And we want to say thank you for that vision. when you tap into those higher visions, you're going to feel the love of it. Okay, so for me right now, I do feel the vibrations of love in my body. I do feel the adjustment in my energy as I go along. And this is for those of you who are on that path of soul embodiment. I do feel visions of love. I do hear the vision of faith. I do express beauty for your souls. Someone's got something going on in here. And so I'm not sure if that's for someone who will be watching this. It seems to have gone away. Okay, so in essence, I'm here to do the vision of love. Others will do the vision of division. And see, for me, the vision of division is one in which that's a higher level understanding about what we create. Okay, so creating a vision of division is that understanding of we are all one, creating together. But in this vision, or on this plane, we often create the vision of division. We divide ourselves from others as if they aren't human or souls expressing, which is my heart. And so that's why I honor those that are the light workers of the world. I get that. That's an intensity. Okay, it's just an intensity. It's not a not loving. So people have the vision of romance and familial love attached to love, right? Like, oh, love is basically me, like having those loving feelings towards you versus an honoring of them as a creative partner. Whoever is in my vision, whether they be on this dimension or on any other. I hear from those souls on lower level understanding sometimes, and it is not the most pleasant thing. And that's why I was like, oh, I'm going to be tapping into someone's family. They're not in a lower level vision, but if you assume that they are, then that gets created in the vision. That's why we say people who are in that vision of religion often lift people up with prayer, right? We're going to pray our hearts out and lift those visions up in their mindsets. I'm not going to assume the worst about a family member who's crossed. Do they assume the beauty of who they are, or were they here? They lift off it's like the mindset of 3D. They go to another realm. Some will create visions of love. Some will create other visions of hatred, right? That's what the categories that people try to place on heaven and hell. So this is why you don't want to create with that vision of it for the most part, if you can avoid it. If you can't, because we don't want you creating a lot of havoc. And that's what happened to me yesterday. I was creating havoc, but I was actually processing and deciding for myself with another family member, what's going on with me? And is it something I need to take action on? Do I need to be candid? Do I need to be honest? Do I need to say, if someone has a problem with me, please come to me directly. Don't go through the grapevine anymore. Okay? Anyone that has an issue with me or what I say, please go ahead, contact me. Let's work it out ahead of time before we, break free from the passive aggressive comments. Okay, I was in that pattern myself in some ways. We all do that. We all do the gossip, or, for me, I'm processing. I'm literally taking my heart to my best friend, one of my best friends. And I usually am like, here's what's going on. What do you think? And she's like the objective, third party, right? But in essence, I can always go to my soul. They'll give me a higher visual, understanding of what. But for me to go in and go, okay, I notice this pattern, Do I embody the vision of I'm going to be an honest communicator and say, hey, right? This is where most of our problems are, which is in the field of communication. Do I really feel the way I do, or am I just, struggled? When do I put it on it's like the faith-driven souls. right? People are going to assume that what I said is a negative for faith. It's not. That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm giving people those visions of how to let that energy go. So other people will say, yeah, I'm going to then, go, and some people will confess, right? And that lets that vision go, that energy. That's the beautiful vision of it, right? Other people have all different kinds of things that they do in order to get free of the energy of a negative vibration. The majority of people, though, that I'm going to be talking to aren't in that vision of I've got a lot of issues with people, right? When you go down the path of self-love, you start to embody the mindset of, I got an INFJ mindset kind of thrown back at me that was a struggled one. And I was like, that's not really true. Because usually that mindset will usually turn that vision in and go, what can I do about this? What do I need to know? What is it that I can see happening? What perspectives are at play? What kind of personality types are at play? That's what I did. I literally could pinpoint who was doing what based on their mindset for the most part, and why. When you go to soul level, though, then it's very specific. I had those inclinations that used to kind of play out. Now, the vision of love for most people is God help America. Most people didn't see that vision of George Bush. Okay? Because in essence, they're assuming that that vision is still about him versus the higher wisdom of George Bush Sr., right? Most people are either, I don't want to deal with that vision, or now I can see the beauty of doing the political realms. You see, when we find ourselves being impacted directly by those visions, many of us don't hear the vision of suicide very often. That's a family tree that I'm working with too. And it's more like the vision was, we assume that our family members on the other side would be creating in the mindset of political realms. Because they're like, oh, well, if the presidents have it depends on what level of understanding they're at or you're at. So soul level understanding is that there's always that vision that our guides are higher than the heavenly realms, right? Not necessarily. So for those of you that are in the mindset of I still just want to hear from my family members, that's a lower level understanding than, say, the archangel vision. Do you understand why I don't go down that path for the most part? It's a beautiful vision, right? That would be more in line with like Teresa Caputo, and I'm not endorsing anybody, to be honest, because I know there's a lot of, but Sylvia Brown, there's, John Edward, a ton of famous mediums, right? And I have that ability to do that vision, but I'm getting it from their soul. I'm not embodying them as they were. Now, the Carters of the world are still here in this plane. And that vision is of a higher vision. Okay? And so we're not going to go down the political realms right now, because that's not really where I want to go with this vision. So at one point, what I'm going to say is that the soul embodiment vision is going to be more of a podcast, because that's what was given to me, and I haven't been necessarily placing my focus on that. I want people to see. I think the thing is that there's a lot of people who are like, yeah, I'm not experiencing the things. It takes time. Have patience, have fun. For those of you that want the healing visions of love, I'm going to bring through that for you. Believe it or not. Okay, so this was the superheroes of the world. right? I was hearing the Greatest American Hero theme song. If that dates me, doesn't it? Okay. You can either believe it or not. What I say about the Macy's and the shots fired, because some people will say, well, there's shots being fired all the time. Not newsworthy, right? I mean, of course, if we have wars going, we're talking about, for her, it's the random, visions that people would assume, like, these are not in the norm. And no one that gets shot is being dishonored. But it's those ideas of, I wasn't involved in a robbery, right? Or it's just when people are shooting people for, like, we're not involved in the police shootings, right? I get those visions sometimes. But man, it's more like the after effects of it. So I'm still recovering from that vision from yesterday. So I want to say thank you. I could always use a little love from that vibration for those who would say that would be heavy stuff. I'm not in the position to go start, contacting the authorities. And so I have to heal my heart when I hear those visions, because I'm trying to work on so many different facets of who I am. Now, the Gorbachev vision is still strong in our country as an anti-religion. That would be the communist agenda. Okay. That's not what's going on in this country, people. He would have said something different. People are going to start to open their eyes to the nature of what communism actually is. Now, some people will say, oh, this means we can't practice. No one in this country would ever stop anyone from practicing their faith in the ways in which we have deemed it. Granted, when we started this country, we may have had our church services, intermingled. Many had one church and, everyone came to the church. And, it was more like a multi-denominational, and then we expanded out. That's the nature. So for us, we're not on the path, and this is what I'm kind of bringing forth. We're not on the path of communism with Biden, people. Gorbachev has his vision of what communism is. They aren't actually communist either, in essence. There's more visions to that. If you want to go to the strictest vision of what communism would be like, you would go to North Korea. And people are going to say, yeah, I don't know as much as you do about that. It's a strong one. It's surprising. People throw out those words of communist and socialist very, like, literally, without doing the research about what they really are. It's not an endorsement of it. But what I'm trying to do is to allay those fears that people have that somehow in this country we're headed towards a communist agenda. It's not communism to want to have people have health care. Okay. Now, the ways in which we go about it is a whole nother story. And we've had an issue with those people who are of age who basically have their own form of communism, right? According to their mindsets, if they get their, Medicare, right? I paid into it, right? Well, if people are working and paying taxes, why can't they get Medicare? Right? This is not an endorsement. It's just, this is how you unwind those visions, right? And it literally is just to sit there and say, yeah, we're not on the vision. So some people say, but that's a slippery slope with a lot of people. Where are we going? Okay, so I have a vision of James Brown. Okay, James Brown was a famous singer. Some people on here don't know it. He's like, she's going to be flying high and feeling good because she brings through the soul of soul. And others are going to be like, that's the beauty of it. You know, so if I want to bring through Gorbachev to start talking about his vision of love for the communist agenda, in essence, that's what people would have expected from that vision. He would say, I saw the limitations of it. That's why we broke free from so much of it. We opened our borders. We opened our system to more of a democratic version of what we were trying to do, to achieve more of those visions. I will open up the floor to Daniel Boone. This is another great American hero, right? How many people know the destructive vision of what Daniel Boone put forth in this country? We have visions that are so overplayed in this country about all the, quote, heroes. The history has been very one-sided. It is very much so. And what we want to do is not demonize people, but let's have an honest understanding of who they were. You do genealogy research, you start finding out the sources and stuff like that, or historians that say it's not about just wanting to feel like everything that a certain person did was the most amazing thing ever, right? Just like, how many people here would say they feel like they're the most perfect person, right? We all have our abilities to concede. That's what's going to happen at some point. I'm going to concede the presidency of the United States. Now, I'm not here to antagonize those people, but I basically predicted the visions. Okay, they are there. They're also in my journal. Some of them are. Okay, they're on video, and they're, you know, time and date stamped and whatnot. And it is going to be peaceful from his perspective. Others are now in the mindset of this is a fake union. They don't believe in the electoral system. They don't believe in the Massachusetts energy. I've got a Massachusetts energy that's going to be watching this video, and I want to say hello. I want to also say that the concession speech will not happen. It will not happen. It will not be a speech. And you need to give me a little bit of a break on that vision. The destruction of the soul was not there. I don't have to worry about anyone coming at me. So I know some people were saying, oh, these other people might come after you if you say something. I'm not afraid. I will never get anything that's going to lead me to a path of death or destruction. Okay, but that's the nature of that vision. And we've honored his vision from his soul so much that most people who know me, that know that I'm not, it's her version of not supporting. She holds his vision in a higher vibration as a soul, so that's why she gets his information. But if people get mad because his soul is saying something, maybe they should have their own soul session, sit down, and see the beauty of it. Just because everyone thinks that their soul is always going to say, you're beautiful, right? That's part of it. But if you have an honest assessment with your soul, they will also let you know where you could be doing better. Okay? They don't want you to suffer in this world. Okay? So for me, suffering is what many people do when they go down the realm of political ideology. It can be a big pain in the ass for the majority of soul workers, to be honest. That's why a lot of them get out of it, because they're like, you can't win. And Brenda says, well, I go there for a reason. And so she's not being denied the vision of beauty of it, because she's like, I'll hold myself to a higher vision of it. She doesn't lower herself by going to the political ideology just because the spiritual paradigms are pretty much visually, saying, a lot of them are saying, get out of it. Not even close. Go to the higher vision, and then you can bring through those visions of love. Cartoon character was another vision of a destructive vision of a assassination attempt. Well, it was a killing. So we're not going to talk about that. She's still hearing about that vision, and it is not done. Those ripple effects from those cartoons are still in the hearts and minds of many Muslims. Now, it is not all, but it is also one of those things that people on this side of the pond don't even know about. And when we say that, because that was over in another country, okay, in France. And so we want to honor the visions. I'm not going to be on here for long because I know I'm not giving a lot of personal information. I want to do the vision of love for you guys. And sometimes that vision is unwinding our hearts from the idea that politics is not worth it for some people. Some people are very interested in the political ideologies. Some people are trying to get out of it, and we want to honor that vision. Some people say, well, how do I unwind it if my family's in it? And that's where we're going to, create a lot of that suffering in this world, because in essence, we have families that are being split or torn apart in their energy vibration, not in their hearts, but just more in that physicality idea of it because of what happens in the mindsets. Do I disassociate with my family members who don't believe like me? Sometimes we need to, if it gets very disruptive. And if it gets so disruptive that you're creating chaos, then yeah, do that. Now, some people will say, no, family is everything. You do not. Baloney. I'm not going to be stepped on in your mindsets. Right? I will hear that vision. And so that's what happens when you start to go to higher visions. And if you embody your soul, they will give you what people are thinking about you if it is needed. There may need to be an adjustment in the ideology that people have that family's first. Baloney. No way, no how. Some people are here to break free from their family. A lot of people break free from their family. Others are here to learn the lessons of when I break free and then I start to go into that vision. Most people are like, what? We literally do this. This is part of growing up, first of all. Do we discard our family? That's a whole different story. We break free from our families. We start to learn how to guide ourselves in this world. We start to figure out what works for us, what doesn't. Do my parents have all the answers? No. Can I look at them and honor them for who they are? Maybe. Most of us do. We go, yeah, a lot of us are like still in the same mindset, right? And a lot of us aren't. It just depends. What do you take on from your family? What do you discard? Did this work out great, right? For me, the strength is of the critical thinking. Because I, as an honest to God person, I'm like, I don't know if there's a lot of critical thinking going on sometimes. But it doesn't matter because most people would say that about me, right? If people knew what I was using to raise my energy up, they would be like, well, look at you. You were doing astrology for years. Yeah, I was. Big time. And you know why? Because it has a higher vision. There's a psychological aspect to it. there's also a conditioning to it. But if you break free of it, which is what I did eventually, it doesn't mean it's completely gone, because I love it. It's a fun thing to do, right? I don't do it the way that people would, People are still talking about Mercury retrograde and whatnot, and I won't be a victim to that vision. I don't run my life according to Mercury at this point. Let's put it that way. That's what you want to break free from. You want to go to the higher aspects of it and say, what is this vision showing me? Okay. And there will be astrologers at some point who will take that vision on. They do understand the nature of, creating with the 3D vision versus the 5D vision of a birth chart. And that is where people would go thinking that's the best vision. But if they're not in the vision of 5D, they shouldn't be looking to those higher visions. So this is why someone who's in the mindset of, therapy might be better for certain people versus getting a soul session. Literally, if you're on the edge, right? It depends. If something were very, very imminent, I would say go call your local, authorities. Someone's gonna be breastfeeding their family tree. This is about caretaking the family trees. Too many people don't break free of their family trees long enough to know who they really are. This is the general guidance from the majority of the souls on the other side. They said, I embodied my family's vision of who they think I should have been. And I was basically always on the lookout for those souls who didn't agree with me because I didn't want to be rejected by my family. How many people know that vision? If I don't believe the same way, I get rejected by my family, or I create waves. How many people create waves with their family and then they have to deal with the consequences? So there's a strategy to how to deal with your family in a way that doesn't create waves. Now, if they can't accept you for who you are, right? That's many. There are many people who discard family members because they can't accept someone for being who they are versus a choice, right? So this could be a choice. So for me, acceptance comes on various levels, right? I accept someone for who they are, but how do we create together? Maybe we can accept them for who we are, but maybe we just don't need to be around them a lot. That's where you start to go when you go down this path. You start to realize I'm creating havoc in my mind, or someone's creating havoc with me based on who I am, what I'm saying, and the messages I'm bringing through. I could bring through, Christ or Jesus, Archangel Michael. I could bring through presidents or whatever. And I will always have people who will doubt my methods because they say it's not coming through in the way that I want it to come through. It should come through like clear and successive. So all those visions that were coming through were topics that I could have brought through for people. Had I been more aware of the vision of how many people will want a specific topic. So here's the deal. I'm going to start placing those visions of who's going to come through ahead of time. And then we will see who wants to pay attention to that. Now, guidance for the soul is for you viewers. But in essence, it can be of a general reading. It's not going to always be your own personal session. Okay? And so I know some people are going to drop off on that point. And I want to say thank you again. Because it isn't always about one or two people. I have some people that will be doing more of the soul embodiment. And that's where the channeling for the soul. Yes, I'm going to be doing channeling for the soul tomorrow at 7 p.m. Pacific time. So be there, right? So who's going to come through? Any one of those visions. We'll see who comes through. I kind of like the mystery of it, to be honest. But how many people say it's a mystery? I never know who's coming through. And I get those visions. So anyways, I want to thank everyone for joining. This was an impromptu kind of session. So yeah, it wasn't quite as focused as what it would have been normally. And I had the issues last night, which was just bonkers. And, you know, like I said, there was some struggles in the mindset based on what I heard earlier in the day. I want to say a big hi to one of my soulmates, in essence, as a friend, and say, I love you. Thank you so much for joining me. And I want to say thank you for all of your hearts for this time and place that we, you know, put each other's visions into focus. Take care of your hearts during this time of crisis. This is the crisis of pandemic. It's not it's a crisis at this point. Okay. We do have hope. We have a lot of faith. We have a lot of vision with the vaccine. Honor the vision. There are going to be a lot of people who are on here who are not sure about getting that vaccine. And we will say we're going to honor that vision, whether or not you do or not. That's a personal decision. But we are in the vision of people needing to really take care of their hearts. Open up the discussion to Tammy and Stacy. I have another vision of two visions who are not watching at this point in time, but may in the future. If they get more of those visions of my family is in trouble, or what part of my family is going to be the one to come through. I get those visions of personal family members sometimes that still come through because of one issue that I didn't address. Caretaking the family tree. At some point, I'm done with the family tree, and I say, if you want to get your messages of love, you would be paying attention to the videos. But I expect authority figures to come through and say they're not going to watch all of the other stuff related to the, most people don't want to hear about the political ideology stuff. So that's why I often put, you know, content in the descriptions. If people are looking for personal, you know, messages, they may get them in there. They may not. Otherwise, I would say, if you want to have more detailed information about the family members that are going to be struggled in their mindsets, then I'm going to say you might want to reach out to me. I can give you more information. And my family members in my heart, who are not my biological family members, but they are there, they know the strength of what my vision means. So I'm going to say thank you for watching. Honor your hearts. Take care during this crisis of COVID or the pandemic. Honor the vision of love. Take care and have a great day.